Hello and welcome to Getting Your Money's Worth, the show that focuses on value. I'm Judith West, and our guest today is Jennifer Aitley. Right? The Fortune Cookie Chronicles. And for those who forgot what a fortune cookie is, we're going to open some of these later, Jennifer. So tell me, first off, it's Jennifer 8, the digit Lee. Is that for real?
It is for real. The Chinese love the number 8, and as a matter of fact, the Olympics this year start on August 8th, 2008, at, of course, 8 p.m.
8 p.m. Okay, so that's right, 2008.
Yeah,
August 08. Okay, so that's they must be very happy.
Oh, they love the number 8, yeah.
Right. 8 stands for what?
The number 8 in Mandarin is pronounced fa, which sounds a lot like, is pronounced fa, which sounds like the word for prosperity, which is fa. And because a lot of things in Chinese often sound alike, people use the meanings interchangeably. So the number 4, for example, sounds like the word for death. So that's bad luck in Chinese.
So 4 is bad luck, 8 is good luck. 8 is
yes, 8 is good luck.
All right, so it's all good luck to have you today.
Thank you.
Tell me something. What started you on this funny and very readable book, The Fortune Cookie Chronicles? How did you get started on that?
Well, I started becoming really interested in the source and the history of fortune cookies in 2005 when Powerball, which is a big multi-state lottery, had 110 winners.
It's very unusual, 110 winners.
Yeah, when normally they had expected only 3 or 4 winners. So this was like beyond statistical randomness. And when they probed into it, they discovered that everyone had used numbers from a fortune cookie. And so I heard the story, and I said,
all 110 winners.
I think that maybe like 104.
They had gotten the numbers that they used to win the Powerball lottery.
Second place.
They had gotten those numbers from a fortune cookie, different fortune cookies.
Different fortune cookies.
But same numbers.
Same numbers. Yes,
wow.
That's why they thought it was. They could tell a lot of them had gone from the same source because they had all 6 numbers the same, and you only needed 5 to come in second place.
But they had all 6 of them.
Yeah. And so what happened is I heard the story, and I said, you know what? I'm going to find out where those fortune cookies came from. So I went, crisscross the nation interviewing.
But you had to go all over the country.
Yeah, I went all the way across the country. I found winners and the restaurants and the distribution system, and finally, at the end of the day, I found it in a place called Wonton Food, which is Long Island City, Queens.
They were the manufacturer?
Yeah. They make about half of all fortune cookies in the country, about at least 4.5 million per day.
How many fortune cookies? 4.5 million per day?
Each day, yeah. So the total market for fortune cookies in the United States is
actually, in your honor, I had Chinese food last night.
And not only that, these are actually from Wonton
Food. And these are actually, I made a point, before I went out, I called the restaurants and said, where are your fortune cookies come from? And these actually are one. So we're going to open these up.
Exactly.
But you don't have some winning numbers here. So what? That's an amazing story. But in doing this, you found out a lot of other things that you were not necessarily looking for.
Right.
So what are some of the stories that came about from your travels?
Well, I guess the point of the book was, it was amazing to me that this many people had played the same number from fortune cookies all across the country on just one day. So it said a lot about how American Chinese food had become, right?
And that's like one day.
In one day, right? So if you think about it, there are actually more Chinese restaurants in this country than McDonald's, Burger King, and Wendy's combined.
Wait a second. There's more Chinese restaurants than the franchises of McDonald's, Kentucky Fried Chicken, and Burger King combined.
Over 40,000, actually.
Really?
And so, the argument that I make is, well, if our benchmark for American is this apple pie, how often do you eat apple pie, and how often do you eat Chinese food, right? So.
And they eat Chinese food when they eat apple pie.
Yeah. And so what happens is, as you look into what we think of as Chinese food, a lot of it actually is more American and not recognized by Chinese people at all.
Is the fortune cookie a Chinese?
Fortune cookies are not Chinese. If you brought fortune cookies to China, people would be very confused. They would bite it and then get surprised because there's a piece of paper inside, which is something I did, yeah.
Let's talk a little bit about I want to hear some more of these stories, but I also want to ask about the fortunes inside. So you break this, and you get the paper fortune inside. This one has lucky numbers. He who never makes mistakes never did anything that's worthy, and 6 lucky numbers, they say. there's a difference. Fortunes are treated very seriously in China, aren't they? Are they not?
Yeah.
Yeah. Tell me a little bit about that.
So what's interesting is the fortunes that you find in American fortune cookies are fundamentally different than the kinds of fortune telling you would get in China. For example, yeah, like if you go to China, about half of the fortunes that you get are actually kind of negative because
they're in China.
Yeah, like if you go to a temple, for example, and then you basically draw a stick, and then that stick correlates with a fortune that you would get from a box. These things have like more admonitions like be careful of your liver or watch your health, right? Whereas that's not the kind of thing that Americans want to get in their fortune cookies after dinner. And it's in everyone's interest that fortune cookies have happy fortunes inside.
In America, we want happy fortunes.
Because one, we're an optimistic society. Two, if there is a good fortune, then the customer's more likely to leave a good tip.
Oh, right. So if you got a bad fortune, you might not want to go back to that restaurant.
Oh, yeah. Not only that, people complain all the time. People complain to the restaurant.
They complain about the fortune?
Yeah, right. Sometimes they threaten not to pay because they didn't like their fortune. It's amazing.
Well, I read your book. I mean, some people said, your husband is going on a long journey. And people thought that meant that, God forbid, he was going to die.
Exactly. Or things like this. In America, you might get a fortune that says, you will inherit a large sum of money. So some people look at that and they're like, oh, that's a good thing. But other people look at that and they're like, oh my God,
someone's going to die.
Someone's going to die, right? So what's important about fortunes in a way is that they offend nobody because it has to be an one size fits all kind of fortune. Like if it's young, if you're old, if you're a woman, if you're a man, these fortunes have to be relevant to everyone.
How many different fortunes are there? Who writes these fortunes?
A lot of people who are like me and like you, basically. Most of them are
people get hired to write fortunes?
Yeah, at this point. Most of the fortunes are written by native English speakers.
Right.
And there's probably tens of thousands of fortunes.
Tens of thousands of fortunes.
I know Wonton Food itself has about 10,000 or more in their database.
And they recycle them.
They recycle them.
They recycle them.
Yes. And what you quickly learn if you read some Chinese classics is Confucius said none of it, almost.
So all that stuff, Confucius said.
Yeah.
I want to come back to fortune cookies, but I'm dying to ask you, so we just had Chinese food last night. Is there really a General Tso?
Yeah, General Tso is actually a real guy.
He's a real guy?
He's a real guy. His Chinese name is Zhuo Zongtang. He was a famous Qing dynasty military hero that played an important role during the Taiping Rebellion, which was a civil war started by a Chinese guy.
And how on earth did General Tso get from the real General Tso to this General Tso's chicken, which is such a popular...
That's actually one of the big mysteries, because obviously if you go back to his hometown, they don't know this chicken dish at all.
Right.
But they're not surprised that I visited this little town, which has like 300 people in it, because, as I say, he was a great military hero. And I realized that in America, General Tso is a lot like Colonel Sanders, and that he's known for
Colonel
chicken
Sanders,
and not war.
Right.
But in China, General Tso is actually known for war and not chicken. A part of it is he's from the Hunan province, which is the tradition of where the dish that we now know as General Tso is taken care of from.
Well, as you traveled around the country, you went to Chinese restaurants, you interviewed people. Did you find a certain commonality among the Chinese food, or did it differ by geographic region?
I mean, there's some. Largely, there is a standard of what American Chinese food is. Like you have beef with broccoli and sesame chicken and egg rolls, and these dishes actually are spare ribs,
sweet and sour soups,
exactly. And so what you have though is that sometimes in regions of America, you do have little quirky things. Like you have Cajun Chinese food outside New Orleans, and you have Philly cheesesteak roll in Philadelphia, which looks like
cheesesteak roll.
Yeah, which looks like a cheesesteak, but inside, it looks like a egg roll on the outside, but inside it's actually a cheesesteak.
But inside it's a Philly cheesesteak. Oh, how funny! Right. Yeah. What is this affinity? How did it ever come about? This tying together of Jews and Chinese food.
Yeah, it's one of my favorite chapters in the book, where I ask, why is chow mein the chosen food of the chosen people? And I basically argue...
Chosen food of the chosen people.
Yeah.
Right.
I basically argue that Chinese food is the ethnic cuisine of the American Jew because they identify with it so much more than even the Eastern European cuisine of their immigrant ancestors. And there are a couple of reasons for this, actually, one of which is that Jews and Chinese are the two largest non-Christian immigrant groups
in this country
to America. So Chinese restaurants were open when Jews wanted to eat, right? So Christmas, Sundays.
Christmas, right.
So after all, Chinese food and the movie.
I know,
Christmas.
exactly. Where else is there to go?
Yeah.
And also, I was amused to read in your book that the most popular wedding day for Chinese people is Thanksgiving.
It's Thanksgiving, exactly.
That's the only day the Chinese restaurants are closed?
Or that Americans don't go...
Chinese food.
Right. 364 days of the year, Americans are eating Chinese food. One day of the year, they're not.
And how many weddings are there?
Oh, it's like hundreds, probably, in Chinatown, New York City.
Thanksgiving. You know, it's not a, your book has a lot of humor in it, but there's also some pathos of sadness. The life of a Chinese delivery man
is very violent in many cases.
It is fraught with danger. I guess the fact that they're out, that they have money with them, what is it? They get hit a lot.
Yeah.
They hit upon.
They're vulnerable creatures within the urban ecosystem. In a way, they're probably among the most attacked. Like workers. And the number one cause of death for the number one cause of death as a delivery man is probably homicide, actually.
Right.
And
so,
what
a shame.
And what happens is a lot of them, work for very, very low wages, and they're sending a lot of that money back home to towns. Right now, a lot of them are coming from an area of China called Fujian province, specifically around a city called Fuzhou. And what's sort of sad about their life is that so many of them work so hard, they don't have time to raise their own children. So they'll have children in America and then send them back to China to be raised by grandparents. And you have nurseries full of kids that are born in America but haven't seen their parents
in a long time. But they are a very vulnerable part of society. Well, I liked your book. I had never really thought. I mean, now I'm going to think very seriously about
giving better tips.
Giving better tips, right? And also, here I have one for you.
Thank you.
And also, was paying more attention to these fortune cookies, the Fortune Cookie Chronicles. What did you have? What do you have?
Keep true to the dreams of your youth.
Okay, so there's nothing bad about that, right? How about this? Feelings are sweet and tender.
That's really nice.
That's a very nice one. In fact, it's a good one to end with. Thank you so much for being on our show. The Fortune Cookie Chronicles. It's a good read by Jennifer A for Prosperity. Did this book make you prosperous?
I could buy a lot of fortune cookies.
You could buy a lot of fortune cookies. Okay, it's a good way to end. And I liked my last fortune. Feelings are sweet and tender. Speaking of sweet and tender, you're watching Getting Your Money's Worth. I'm Judith West. Thanks for watching. And for more, watch me on my website, gettingyourmoneysworthnyc.com.